Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show. Yo, Shortbox Nation. Welcome back to the podcast. How are we doing today? How is everyone feeling? How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are feeling good, doing great, in a good state of mind, good state of health. To all of our new friends joining us for the first time, welcome to the Shortbox Podcast. My name is Botter, and this is the comic review and talk show where we provide you with the best conversations about comics, culture, and more. Today, you're being treated to a bonus episode that has been unlocked from our Patreon. That's right, Patreon, the ever-elusive platform that we always bring up, that utopian community, of Shortbox listeners that we all love, that are our most loyal fans. This is one of those episodes that we gave them way back in February, all right? It's an episode completely dedicated to one of the most seminal comic book cartoons ever, the X-Men animated series. It is the 11th installment of our spin-off podcast series, Pilot's License, which is a series dedicated to the best comic book cartoons and animated shows. It's a monthly series that we do exclusively for our Patreon subscribers. But, sometimes in moments like this where we're taking off for the week to record bonus content, go ahead and unlock one for everybody to enjoy. So if you're a diehard fan of the X-Men animated cartoon like we are, or if you've ever been curious about what goes on behind that Patreon curtain, what goes on over there in that Patreon? They always talk about it. They always mention it. Well, you know what? You're in the right place. You're going to get all that answered. You're also going to hear us talk about X-Men ad nauseum, and the full crew is on this one too. We recorded this, like I said, a while back. If I'm not mistaken, I think we also ran into some technical issues, so the audio it leaves a little much to be desired, but it's still a really good episode, right? And if you're curious about what we got going on next week, we're kicking off spooky season next week. All right, that's what we're doing next week. We're going to be talking about our favorite horror comics, our favorite scary stories in comics. So if you're someone that loves Halloween and you get excited when October rolls around and you love scary stuff, come back next Wednesday, all right? That's going to be a fun episode. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day in this intro and let you guys enjoy this episode. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk soon, all right? Peace. Yo, Shortbox patrons, welcome to the 11th episode of our bonus podcast series, Pilot's License. It's a series that finds revisiting our favorite episodes of classic comic book cartoons and animated shows, but you know that by now. We covered the Spider-Man animated series last episode, and we're continuing the trend of cartoons from the Fox Kids network of the 90s. In this episode, we'll finally be talking about the X-Men animated series and our favorite episodes. The show is produced by Saban Entertainment. It ran for 5 seasons from 1992 to 1997. And if you are a longtime X-Men reader of the comics, you're familiar that the show is very similar in look and lineup to the early 1990s X-Men drawn by Jim Lee. But I probably don't have to tell most of you that because most of you probably have every note of that epic theme song composed by Ron Wasserman, who was also the mastermind behind the equally famous Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song, memorized in your sleep by now. I know I do. I know Cesar sings it in public bathrooms like a weirdo.
Oh,
it's true. Hey, get your own material, pal. All right. If I want to make a joke, I'll make it.
That muddy-sounding ass voice that you just heard was Cesar. We're doing this episode old school with fucking tin can. So, pardon the quality this week. We had some technical difficulties, but I do got the full crew here with me. Like I said, I got Cesar Cordero on the call.
Sweet.
I got Ashley Lanny-Hoy also calling in.
Hey, and just to clarify, I just ruined Botter's whole day. It was my technical difficulties.
No, Ashley, don't blame yourself. Blame the listeners. It's always the listeners' fault.
And the Comcast.
Yeah,
blame
true,
them too.
Comcast.
Yeah.
And then joining me here in the studio is Edmund Danzar as well.
Yay.
There we go. We got the full crew this week. Listeners, if you're tuning into this episode, it means that you got access to this because you're an active Patreon subscriber, helping us keep the lights on here at the Shortbox Studio so we can continue to create great content and produce not only weekly episodes, but bonus ones like this. So despite all the shit talking we give you and all the blame that we put on you, we appreciate you guys, man. Thank you guys so much for helping us out. Now, before we begin talking about Professor Xavier's band of merry mutants, I would like to dedicate this episode to the memory of Norm Spencer. He's a Canadian-born actor who voiced Cyclops throughout the entire series. He also voiced Drax the Destroyer in the Silver Surfer cartoon. So we just want to go ahead and put some respect on the man's name. He passed away last year and had a big hand in the show. Now, I do encourage you to get a refresher on the show, though it's not a requirement to enjoy this episode, but it's absolutely worth it if you haven't watched the X-Men animated series in a minute. And if you enjoyed our recent Jim Lee episode or you want to get ready for the upcoming X-Men 97 series debuting next year, you can watch all 5 episodes comprised of 76 episodes on Disney Plus, or you can own all of them on DVD for about $140 on Amazon if physical is your thing. Now, if you need a quick refresher on the team that was prevalent in this show, you had X-Men like Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, Beast, Gambit, Jubilee, Jean Grey, Professor X, and Ed's favorite mutant, Morph.
Oh, Morph is awesome.
For like 3 episodes.
Gone too soon. R.I.P.
Much too soon. Like first 30 minutes. Now, all you eagle-eyed comic fans know that the majority of the X-Men animated series stories are original, but a number of those storylines and events are from the comics that were loosely adapted for the series. You had episodes like the 2-part pilot episode Night of the Sentinels. You had other comic classics like Days of Future Past, and of course Phoenix and Dark Phoenix Saga that the show did really good. Actually, I'm gonna start with you because it's been a lot of fun doing these pilot license episodes and learning, and watching you get exposed to a lot of these cartoons. Was X-Men one that you watched when it was coming out or younger, or was this your first time kind of diving into the show?
This I knew of it, but this was my first time watching any of these episodes. Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. Very first time. Okay.
Did you end up watching the pilot episodes?
I watched the very first episode, and then I kind of just scrolled through, and if the thumbnail was like a character I liked, I watched that one. So I watched maybe like 5 or 6 of them.
Dang, okay. So you did a lot of homework for this one.
I did. It was fun.
See, what about you, man? What do you remember for your first exposure to this show? I think you had mentioned to me that you were watching it like as they were coming out, like first premiering, right?
First exposure to the X-Men cartoon was essentially me waiting on pins and needles, like every other kid, I think. Like as a small kid, like you're sitting here, like you'd see the promos for it, and it would always be that same one where it was like the Sentinels, like surrender mutant. And I think Cyclops said something like "suck my dick,"
Wow.
and that was an actual commercial. It actually happened.
Hey,
that was the real commercial. Before you guys say anything,
That was a popular catchphrase of his.
That's what he said. He just did that, and then the Sentinel was like, "Surrender, mutant," and then Wolverine said something like, "Get away from her, you fucking side dick," and then like they both started fighting, and then guys, this was you don't remember
a totally
this?
different show.
This is how it was. Go back and watch it. Treat yourselves. It's a great show.
I get it because that's why he's mad at Cyclops too, because Fox let him curse, but Wolverine wasn't allowed to.
True.
Right. Well, because Wolverine was the goddamn liberal from Canada. You know how Fox News is, guys.
All right, Steve, we're back to your first exposure. This fucking weird ass tangent you got us on.
Sorry, guys. I thought this was the Alex Jones podcast. I thought we were doing InfoWars here.
False.
No,
flag.
you know, these mutants are turning the frogs gay. No, honestly, most of that was horseshit. But the part I said about when I was a little kid and I saw that the previews for it was 100% true, and those promos were enough to get any small, fresh-faced little kid excited about a team of misfits, especially if you yourself are a misfit. So my first exposure was good. I don't know. It changed me on a molecular level. Colorful characters. Heavy story arcs. It's crazy.
Were you getting any of the VHSs through that infamous Pizza Hut promo?
I believe you are referring to the Book It program.
There we go.
And no, I just read books for fun like an idiot, and I didn't know that you could get.
Sucker.
Yeah, I didn't know you could get
Capital Gain.
You could get pizza for it. You
could get diabetes and high cholesterol off being a nerd.
Yeah,
good stuff. Ed, what about you, man? What do you remember from your first time watching the show?
I do remember it as a kid, but I think, if I can remember at that time, I was way more into the comics. So the show didn't feel as cool to me, if that makes sense. Because, like I said, I like the characters in the comics as they had like 1,000 X-Men. I liked I just thought it was I thought it was just like and I did watch a couple of them, but I never, really sat down and, realized how good the series was, because I was more into comics at the time. So that was the superior version to me at the time. This was kind of like, oh, this is a kid's, spin-off. I'm not terribly interested in it, but I did watch a couple, but I wasn't terribly fond of it as a kid. Did
you go back to these episodes now, kind of like a little more appreciative or less appreciative?
Oh, 1,000% more.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Word. I'll chime in and say that I think my first conscious exposure to the show was the unreleased, well, not really unreleased, but the very short-lived pilot episode that came out, The Pride of the X-Men.
Pride of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Australian Wolverine.
Ooh.
Oh, Wolverine, mate.
My claws act like a bobby. Yeah. But I think between like Pride of the X-Men and then, the Konami X-Men game that was, lifted a lot of the, actually all of the design from that same show.
Yeah.
I remember having like the VHS and like just being blown away. I think that's where I first like really became a fan of Colossus, because they had the Pride of the X-Men had that wicked theme song, which I think I think I might like that one a little more than what we got animated. But I mean, that was the first time like seeing Colossus like morph up and shit. I mean, just his fight with Juggernaut and all that, like still is pretty vivid in my head. So that was really like my first, exposure to the show. And then eventually, we were buying, like my dad was buying the VHSs for the animated series, and Night of the Sentinel was like, I think he had the whole first season on VHS, and we would just like play those to death. Like we loved them.
And when he was done with them, he would actually push them on other kids like Suge Knight.
Hold them by their ankles
like,
outside the window.
Watch this X-Men shit. It's exciting, right, kids?
Silly.
Oh my God.
And thinking back too, because Pride of the X-Men was narrated by Stan Lee. That might have been maybe my first exposure to like Stan Lee, like hearing his voice and not really putting a name to it, but like the first exposure to Stan. So,
wow, can you show us on the doll where he touched you?
He's like, my name's Stan Lee, sole creator of the X-Men.
Right.
He touched me on my heart right here. That's where he touched me.
Hey, kids, don't forget the best part of the X-Men was made by me, Stan Lee.
Ed, I'm going to look to you on this one because, you've got the nickname Cred Ed. Do you know anything about how the show came about? Any interesting trivia or behind-the-scenes stuff?
Some behind-the-scenes stuff, because I know Margaret Lesh was like basically the one championing the show too. And she basically worked at Marvel and then basically became the head of then started working with Fox, and then I think they said it was like an 8-year period of just trying to get this show on the air.
Damn.
And it came to a point to where it's like, she basically said if this show doesn't succeed, she would be fired. So it was a pretty extreme. So she was definitely, believed in these characters and in just all the crazy behind the scenes troubles it had and the show's going out of order and things like that. And it's and one of the funniest things too, because there's a lot of great cameos in this series. Like they just throw in characters randomly here and there, even as background characters. And just the funny thing is they didn't ask permission to do any of that. They basically would, in the script, if like Spider-Man showed up, they would just write him as Web Mutant. Doctor Strange is the magician, and like Thunderbird, Mutant number 4. They really respected our Native American characters there.
Hey, they gave respect to Forge. Thunderbird just sucks.
Yeah, he was on fucking Magneto's side in the intro. He's on Magneto's side.
But that was the funniest thing because they did it because I guess the corporate people, they didn't know anything about comics, so they could just throw them in there without having to deal with licensing fees. As far as I read, there was no repercussions from it, so they just got away with it.
Damn.
Those egg-sucking pieces of gutter trash.
You egg-sucking piece of gutter trash.
That's a top 5 quotable from that show right there.
I'm gonna call my wife that.
Oh my God.
It's a loving term of endearment in Canada.
She's the mother of my child, guys. It's an affectionate term.
To add to what you mentioned about Margaret Loach being such a big champion and a reason why we got this, it was kind of cool to see the parallels that she was the president of Marvel, that very short-lived Marvel Productions that had produced what did they produce? They produced Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the RoboCop series, and then I think even Muppet Babies, if I'm not mistaken.
Shit!
Yeah, she was the real quick, I've got something for that too. But she was the president of Marvel Productions, and then when she got the job at Fox Children's Network, she kind of was like, hey, we had really good success with Pride of the X-Men, and that was kind of used as a springboard to that. But one thing about the Muppet Babies kind of killed the momentum for Pride of the X-Men, because when Marvel got into some legal problems or trouble around that time, 1989, they ended up selling, I think, Marvel Productions, and I don't know if it was Marvel Entertainment, but they ended up selling to this private investment firm. So they cut all funding for anything that was going on for Marvel Productions, but they used what little budget they were going to use for X-Men Pride of the X-Men in that series to create the Muppet Babies. So the Muppet Babies ended up fucking killing off the X-Men before they had a chance.
Killed the X-Men.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if the X-Men and the Muppet Babies got into a fight,
oh dude, Miss Piggy is fucking all of them up.
No, that nanny.
Not even Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Miss Piggy as a baby.
Yeah, apparently.
Like Wolverine would just roll up there like, come here, bub, I'm gonna light you up. And it's like, when your world looks kind of weird and you wish that you were there.
Well, how about this? How about we do the X-Babies versus the Muppet Babies?
Ooh.
They still lose.
Yeah, they
still lose.
So they can't even beat them.
No money.
Yeah.
No money.
It'd be fun.
Oh, and one other fun fact. Apparently the budget that was, and it's kind of like a waterfall effect, right? Like before Pride of the X-Men, the reason Pride of the X-Men was even made was because they took the budget from RoboCop. They were supposed to make a 13th episode for RoboCop to wrap up the series, and they said, nah, fuck that. Let's just use that money for X-Men. Just
think about a RoboCop cartoon of a rated R, ultra gory sci-fi movie in the 80s. How awesome was that? They made a
so great
cartoon out of that movie.
So guys, like, I really fucking hate cops. And you're like, oh.
And then I think before we get into our own, before we continue on, I do want to make note that in addition to Margaret Loach, another big proprietors and founders and developers for this show were a wife and husband combo team, Eric and Julia Lewald. They were producers as well as the writers for, I think, a good bit of the series. Well, I don't know if writers, but they helped. They were instrumental in producing the series and getting it developed alongside some other executive, Sidney Iwanter. So, it's like relationship goals right there, to fucking team up with your wife and write an entire beloved fucking series based on everyone's favorite mutants.
Maybe. Are they still together?
Yeah, hell yeah, shit. They just put out a book together about their
You-
time.
I thought you were like, hell yeah, man! They just put out an album together. It's the most fire album fucking sludge rap you ever heard.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, and
2022.
And to add to that, like just from listening, hearing, or reading about them, it's they really pushed for a lot of the
Adult
like the
themes
relationship and the adult themes for the show.
Oh my
So,
god!
Yeah, pretty good stuff. Like we introduced in our Spider-Man episode, I decided to kind of like, divide and conquer. I gave everyone the option to, if you watched the pilot episode, perfect. Feel free to watch whatever episode you wanted. Come together. Let's talk about them. So actually, I want to kick it off with you, as someone who just kind of did a lot of homework and getting spun up and reintroduced to the series. What were some of the episodes that you ended up watching and that you want to highlight?
So the two that I really liked, that make me want to go back and watch more are, I watched that Nightcrawler episode. It was the first one of either season 3 or season 4,
Thanks.
where they find him, at the monastery.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has like that cool, like, it's kind of like a castle raid, but it's like at the monastery.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I liked a lot was the Orphan's End episode, where it was like Cyclops and Corsair kind of like hanging out. And he finds out that that's his dad, and it was kind of a dramatic episode, but it was really good. I liked it a lot.
Papa, can you hear me?
Why am I not surprised that you managed to find the one Corsair episode in the later half of the series?
But yeah, it was really good. I liked it a lot. So it was so dramatic, I guess. I don't know. Like, a lot of these episodes were just so full of drama. I wasn't expecting it to be that, like, adult, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of crying.
Oh,
Yeah. A lot of just like human misery and pain and just emotions. And I was like, oh, this is a kid's show?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're right. There isn't a lot of I guess campy or gung ho happy episodes. Like it always comes at a very bittersweet angle. And I think that Nightcrawler one is a prime example of it. Like, it's a very heavy episode throughout the whole thing, and then you have that, that those last 2 minutes where Rogue walks in on Wolverine praying, where it's like a moment of like, wow, this is extremely beautiful. Like throughout all this bitterness, there's that sweetness to it. Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they both kind of surprised me with like how adult the themes were in the episode.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how many are like that, but it seems like it's like a recurring, theme through the whole show.
Well, I know Eric and Julia, the head writers and head developers, like that was something that they, were kind of blessed with working with Margaret and the other executives, is that they had free reign to explore more adult themes in this cartoon. Because they were looking at the source material, right? Like how all of these themes are covered in X-Men, right? Like, bigotry, religion, et cetera, politics and all that stuff. And they wanted to like bring some of that over to this cartoon. And I know that like at times it was kind of challenging for them because they had like censors and other executives that wanted this to be, some campy.
Sell toys. We want to sell toys.
No, now, granted, they were able
Sure
to do
as
that
hell
too,
did
right?
sell toys.
Damn right.
Yep.
But they did it on their own terms. And they mentioned that they worked with a really good censor for that episode, that Nightcrawler one. And she told them like, hey, look, here's what you can't do, but here's how we can adjust the script to meet, the requirements to get this episode aired. Because, think about it. It's a fucking kids episode talking about like religion and God and all that. Like,
it's wild.
Yeah. I know, see, me and you have talked about that episode a lot. Isn't that one of your favorites?
So, yeah, I guess if you want, I can do my favorite episode here because that's the one I picked, do Ashley.
Cool.
That episode's so good.
Yeah.
I guess for me, when I was younger, and I guess by younger I mean around fourth, fifth grade era, I was, I guess I was already pretty familiar with feeling like the other. I don't know, like it's something that I've kind of like not grown out of, but I've learned to navigate the waters of assimilation. Being someone who is Puerto Rican and hanging out with other Puerto Ricans who would consider me like, yo, you ain't Puerto Rican enough because I don't listen to salsa, and going to school and hanging out with people who aren't of my culture and saying, ew, get away from me, you freaking weird Latino. It was just sort of the norm. It didn't bother me one way or the other. It's just like, oh, that's what my life is like. And of course, having tendencies that, towards things that were nerdy because I enjoyed reading and art and all that stuff, X-Men was my jam. So I guess I never really perceived the episodes as heavy because my life was heavier than said episodes.
Oh, man.
So when I would watch when I saw the Nightcrawler episode, I was like, yo, that's freaking great, man. It's crazy. The episode ends with Wolverine. I think he's quoting Isaiah 12:1, if I'm not mistaken. And, he kind of, that episode is good. It's not, surface level. It's like boilerplate X-Men story, right? It's, hey, don't judge a book by its cover. Mm-hmm. That's boilerplate X-Men. Hey, be kind to the stranger, like that's not, that's whatever. But if you look deeper, it's an exercise in nihilism versus any sort of hope in the transcendent, right? Because you have two opposing viewpoints and Wolverine's kind of in the middle. Because Gambit, he's like, hey man, YOLO, this is the only life there is. And not only that, it's shitty. Life is shitty. So fucking eat shrimp and ice cream and check out women when you're on a date. Check out other girls when you're on a date. Yeah. And that's, there's his nihilistic point of view, right? And Nightcrawler's like, well, yeah, I mean, but God's kind of like any parent, he's not really going to try and micromanage your life. You gotta, as humans, we all gotta have to figure this shit out. So just be kind and let your heart be kind of tender and keep it mushy. Don't let it be so hard. And Wolverine's stuck in the middle. He's like, don't you think I want to believe that, And it's kind of interesting that the decision they choose to make in the episode is the one where you see Wolverine kind of smiles at the end, right? It's not like he has a whole like Wolverine became a Christian. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think he more or less, was doing because Kurt picked those verses out for him, not him. He didn't pick those verses. Kurt was like, yo, hey man, I got some encouraging shit for you. Check it out. And they're not really all that preachy. It's not like turn or burn. You're going to hell. It's like, hey, it's encouraging. Like maybe there's something more. And even if you don't think there is, find that in other people and open your heart to it. Yeah. And that's where you get the little smile. And that shit, not only that, they show Rogue looking at that example and it touches her ass. Like she walks away and she's fucking crying.
You can't do that.
No, I didn't
You'll
say
lose your
I
powers.
didn't say Gambit. I didn't say Gambit touched her ass. But there's some subtext there, right? The one mutant that can't have any sort of physical relationship looks and sees something, and she doesn't get touched physically in a way that like maybe a hug would do, but there's something there. There's something there spiritually, and I think it's very interesting. It might be accidental. If it is, good writing. If it isn't, if that shit was intentional, fucking fantastic writing.
Yeah.
So
what did Kurt say? God does not abandon his children, human or mutants. That shit got
Right.
me.
Yeah,
That was
and
excellent.
And what's cool about Nightcrawler, he's probably one of the coolest looking characters
Oh yeah.
in the X-Men
Yeah.
universe. The fact that he has this deeply religious angle to him, and he looks, and like him and Beast look different. They can't just go to the mall
Yeah.
without a big trench coat and a hat.
Their mutation
You
is
know.
outward, not
Yeah,
inward.
and the fact that Nightcrawler looks like the biblical, devil with a tail and everything, like that, and has that demon look to him. It's just a cool combination of having religion play a big part of his story arc because of his looks. It's 100% because of his looks, and the fact that he's not just killing everybody, But yeah, he's a fascinating character. He's a really cool looking character that's kind of never really changed his look. His look has been pretty consistent over the years, and I just like that religious dynamic with him, and then him looking like the biblical devil.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a neat twist on that.
Speaking about the writing, I was curious because that episode just written so well. I was curious who the writer was, and it's a Lynn. I think it's Uhley, Uhley. Hopefully, I said that right. But they actually wrote 2 other episodes. One of them being the follow-up Nightcrawler episode in the same season, season 4, episode 14, Bloodlines. That's the one where Nightcrawler learns Mystique, is his mother, and he goes and confronts her. And she also, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, but they also wrote the Bobby Drake Iceman episode that I think is in this season too. So they only wrote 3 episodes, but to me, they're 2 of them, 2 or 3 or more of the more powerful episodes in this particular season.
have you tried not being a mutant, Bobby?
Yeah. Ed, what about you, man? What episodes did you watch? What episode did you want to highlight?
I went opposite because there's a lot of heavy stuff in this series. So the one I picked, season 2, episode 11, Mojo Vision.
Oh, you went out for the wild.
So I went with the Looney Tunes episode of the series because, like I said, it's essentially, I love the Long Shot miniseries, and Nicelli and Art Adams did, and this kind of brings that world into the X-Men world. And the fact that it's a TV show, Mojo runs like a interdimensional TV program, and he's watching the intro to the X-Men in the episode. It's saves a lot of money, but it's also very meta and funny because basically Long Shot and they do a intro to, like, in the same style they do the intro to the X-Men, and then they continue it with like a Long Shot show where he's fighting, different clips of him fighting different aliens and things, and there's like a Psylocke, real quick, a Psylocke appearance cameo, and the fact that it's all based on ratings. Mojo is like this really fat. Speaking of diabetes, he just cut his whole bottom half off. He's so messed up. And the fact that he's like the over the top villain. He's very, I don't know. I try to compare him to things in that time, but he's very, almost think of like a Jim Carrey would do, like a crazy, like a mask type performance, just over the top. And you have the Major Domo, his just kind of exhausted, assistant. And then one of my favorite characters, speaking of cool design, Spiral. I love her design. Just those bizarre characters, bringing in the X-Men, kind of doing these little, almost like Danger Room, holodeck type TV shows where they're in TV shows and end up getting killed in this TV show and then put on the, it's, I don't know. I just liked it because, you need a break from the bigotry and the hate and and you kind of want silly. And I thought this episode did a good job of okay, let's it's been pretty heavy, because you start off with Sentinels, anti-mutant propaganda, and then you want something just kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a fun episode, and it has a great kind of Looney Tunes ending where everything's destroyed. Mojo's under a pile of rubble, and then Longshot and Spiral, bitter enemies, you'd think. And Dazzler makes an appearance in this too, which is kind of cool. And Gladiator and Punisher. But they're robots, yeah. So there's a lot of cool I think Super Android, the Adaptoid or Super Android. It's that guy with the blockhead, the old Kirby character. He's in that. I think the Brood's in it. It's a lot of crazy cameos, and I think in the crowd, because he's like in a Coliseum type of setting, and in the crowd they put like some Marvel staff. I think Mark Silvestri and Jack Kirby are one of the characters. Yeah,
that's cool.
In there, and like one of the funny lines is like they start getting bored because too much exposition, I guess, and then everyone's reading a book in the crowd. Hilarious. It's like, come on, we need ratings. I'm losing to a bunch of dead trees, and everybody in the audience is reading a book because they're bored for 5 seconds. It's such a fun like commentary on television and television culture, but it's silly, it's over the top, and that Looney Tunes ending where Spiral and Longshot, they kind of walk off behind all the rubble. He's like, I dated a woman with 2 heads once, and it's like, and Spiral's like, which is weird. She's like, was she nice? It's like, yes or no. Hilarious. And then Mojo comes out like, oh guys, let me throw you this idea. So he's always on, and they do this great transition where they look at a screen with the Savage Land, and they kind of go to that story arc where it's Magneto and Professor X in the Savage Land with Sauron and Shanna the She-Devil. Cameos abound. So it's such a great transition to the next episode from the Mojoverse. I just loved it. I love those weird characters. I love this is kind of like a nice little silly break between all the sadness. But yeah, that's the one I picked.
And I believe that one was which one again? Mojo Vision?
Yep.
Okay. I think Mojo shows up again in the next season. There's an episode, I think, called Longshot, dedicated to Longshot.
Yeah. And the funny thing, too, is Longshot's in it, but he's not like he helps the X-Men not for any kind of heroic gain. It's more just because he wants his time slot back for his show. So it's not, he's not even being heroic in this incarnation of Longshot. So, and he has that fabulous blonde mullet, which I love.
Now, Longshot keep it real. He's like, look, I'm not here to be a fucking hero. I want the attention.
Yeah.
So the episodes I ended up going with, outside of Nightcrawler, the one I want to spotlight is from season 4. It is season 4, episode 9 and 10. It's a 2-part story called One Man's Worth. I don't know if you guys saw that article I put in the outline, but there was an article where Eric and Julia were picking their favorite episodes and talking a little bit about, the behind the scenes stuff. And this episode, this One Man's Worth is, it's a 2-parter, takes place in a horrible universe where Xavier, essentially Age of Apocalypse, right? Just think that. But Xavier has been killed by, the time misplaced mutant Fitzroy and Nimrod. There are no X-Men in this universe. Storm has a sweet mohawk, and she's married to Wolverine. They follow, Magneto is called the leader, and he's kind of like the last hope for mutants against both the humans and the Sentinels, specifically Master Mold. But on the topic of this episode, I think it was Eric or maybe Julia, but one of them said that they love the movies in Star Trek episode. They love the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and the Star Trek episode A City on the Edge of Forever. Both the stories,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. He knows what's up. Both the stories about
fucking Harlan Ellison, my boy.
Yeah. Both of those stories are about if one person wasn't there, how would it change the world? So they just applied that concept to this episode. If Professor X wasn't here, what would happen? The whole, mutant and human relationship would just kind of go to shit. So it was a lot of fun to watch this one and see their take on Age of Apocalypse. And one thing I ended up learning was, you would watch this maybe now and be like, oh, Age of Apocalypse, the comic storyline influenced this. But
nope.
On the contrary, it was the other way around. I didn't know that at the time. They're saying Bob Harris, who, Marvel editor-in-chief around this time, 1995, and he was over all the X-Men books, was their comic consultant. So he would, help out and, give them stories or just kind of, be a consultant for them. And this was one of the few stories, if not maybe the only one, where Bob was like, hey, we're actually going to use this. Or that episode inspired the comic books, because 18 months after this episode aired, that's when Age of Apocalypse, the series set off, which I think it's safe to say it's one of the best and at least most beloved X-Men series in the comic books. But once again, this one was just filled with a bunch of really cool ass cameos. I mean, you get to see Old Man Magneto, like looking just like Age of Apocalypse. Giant Man from the Avengers is in there, and he's on the fucking opposite side.
Well, it's Hank Pym, right? Is it Hank Pym time? That guy's.
That's
sucks.
true. He's a piece of shit. Yeah, he is. But you got like a Holocaust is in here fighting alongside the X-Men, Mr. Sinister, Sabretooth, and a Wild Child looking just like they do in AOA. Of course, Bishop and his sister Shard are involved because it's a goddamn time storyline. So of course they got to bring them in. But they Bishop and Shard go into this alternate present or future, get Wolverine and Storm to help them to try to save Professor X. So they go back in the time to 1958 when Professor X is in college. This old ass motherfucker, man.
He ages really well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But they go back in time to try to save him from being killed by Fitzroy and Nimrod. And Nimrod is a total badass in the series, for the record. So they fail once, and they go into Bishop's future to use the time machine that Forge built and find out that it's completely, a fucked up alternate timeline where Master Mold has taken over, and they try again, and eventually they get to it. But there's a really sentimental moment between Wolverine and Storm kind of saying goodbye. Wolverine is kind of on edge about this whole mission because he knows what it means for their relationship. If they fix the timeline, he doesn't, get to stay married to her. And she's like, we got to do this because this one man could change, everything. So good episode. Highly recommended if you're a fan of Age of Apocalypse. It does get a little repetitive at times because, they're having to repeat a lot of the story a few times. So it does get bogged down a little bit. I kind of wish they would have stayed more in the future, showing you how fucked up everything is, but it is what it is. I'm gonna go to you on this one, man, because I imagine you were probably up on the X-Men comic books around this time, or at least into them. Did the show introduce you to any notable X-Men or characters that maybe you hadn't seen in the comic books?
Oh, geez. Yeah, more probably. I mean, look, I was like, all I remember is watching that first episode and seeing Morph chilling out in the X-Men day room, and he's watching. It's very obviously George Bush, senior, and he's like, "My fellow Americans, I am an idiot," and just laughs. And I was like, "Oh my god, they're making political hot takes on this show."
Your origin story? Is this why you like doing voice work and stuff?
Oh, dude, yeah, that's it. I related to Morph because we were both, No, dude.
You both had fucking bags under your eyes that was like, "Yo, go to sleep."
No, you know who they introduced me to was I'm gonna tell you right now, the Shadow King.
Man,
the Shadow King. I had
Shadow King.
Yes, dude. So Apocalypse. Now that I think of it, Egyptian dudes are my favorite villains in the X-Men universe. Now that I think about it, I fuck with the Egyptians, man. I love those guys.
Yeah.
So Apocalypse scared the shit out of me, but when the Shadow King showed up, I had no idea who he was in the comics because the comics weren't really doing anything with him in the 90s, right?
Yep.
He's like a Claremont Cockrum guy, And I was like, who the fuck is this? He's like a demon. He's a fucking demon. Why does he look so scary? Oh my God. I was like, no. And he's like, it's like, Wolverine, I don't know, some shit. He says where'd this guy come from? He's like, Professor X's skeezy ass is like, I was in Africa once when I was a young man looking for a panooch, Back when I could walk, I was a bit of a pussy hound. I don't know if you know that or not.
Charles, please.
That's this show was raw. They kept it real, okay?
No, 100%.
And
speak on it.
So that, and I'll tell you what. Now maybe you guys can speak on this. Did any of you know who Proteus was before the cartoon?
I still don't know who that was.
To the no. I know now, but
dude,
no.
Proteus is another guy that I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He made Wolverine cry. That was the one mutant that actually Wolverine was afraid of. He was like, get away from me! I want to talk to my father. And Wolverine's like, come here, kid. Let me spank your fucking ass. And he's just like, no, and, like turned Wolverine's claws into snakes.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
he gave him acid.
warped
acid
reality around him, and Wolverine was like,
versus the usual.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, for real, like they were like talking to him, like Wolverine, it's okay. Like Jean came up to him and he was like, she's like, Wolverine, it's fine. And he's like, don't touch me.
it's pretty bad when he doesn't want to touch Jean.
Yeah, for
That's-
sure,
that's-
right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Proteus,
closer, Red.
Shadow King, and Apocalypse. Those are my dudes
That's
that
a
I didn't know anything about.
Solid lineup. Back in my days, I wanted to dip my vanilla in chocolate.
Dude, that's what
Hey,
I spent many years in the tents of Tangiers.
when I could walk, I had jungle fever, Logan.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry. I cannot believe we are fucking
Oh,
out here
wow.
disparaging Professor X's good name. For the record, a weird Easter or trivia I learned. The voice actor, on the topic of Professor X, I only bring it up because it's topical. The voice actor of Professor X actually ended up, I don't know if he married or was just dating the voice actor of Jean, the voice actress of Jean, which I thought was a
Oh.
very weird and unique combo.
That is a comic callback. Cause
Yeah.
Wow.
it
Well,
was kind of
if-
weird with them at the beginning. Then they kind of had to stop.
Well, I
it.
mean, shit. See, how many times have me and you joked about how creepy Professor X is to Jean Grey in the
Yeah,
comic books?
thanks a lot, Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, actually,
Thank
that
you,
was
Grant
before.
Morrison.
Grant Morrison was playing on something they did before, back like even
Oh
in
yeah, I know.
So-
Early '90s, they tried to do that shit after
no, even
Hubert
Kirby
took over from Jim Lee.
even Kirby Lee.
Oh, yeah,
back
yeah,
then
that's
it was
right.
like,
Yeah.
what a comely young lady this is, Red. And then they're like, okay, calm that down,
Wait,
guys.
Ed, what was that? What
Comely?
was the adjective you just used?
Comely?
Comely.
I'm trying to go back to the old-fashioned
got it.
compliments.
I got it. Ashley. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can chalk that up to Stan Lee's writing.
Yeah, good. Ashley, I don't know what is your familiarity with the comics. Did you read a lot of X-Men comic books, or would you say that the few episodes that you've watched so far have introduced you to more X-Men in a lifetime than you didn't have introduced to in a lifetime?
Wanted to know about.
I had like the one title that I read like in middle school and high school.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm kind of like it's hard to dabble in X-Men, honestly, because it's so big.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
There's so much of it, but I'll read a few issues here and there, and I'll meet the characters, and if the story doesn't make sense, that's all right. I'm more of like a browser of X-Men than like get onto a storyline and like read the whole thing through.
Okay. So you said you watched about 5 or 6 episodes to prep for this recording. What are some of the more
Yeah.
notable, I guess, X-Men or characters that you were introduced to?
Well, see, that's the thing is like the episodes that I watched were about the characters that I already liked.
Hell yeah.
So I'm not sure if I really got like introduced to anything specific.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I did read that Cyclops, was that like 2014, 2015? There was like that Cyclops run. I don't know if anybody read that. It was like Greg Rucka.
Where it's the Cyclops from the '60s, and he's teaming up with Corsair, right?
Yeah, he's just like hanging out with his dad in space, and
Yeah.
like I liked that book. I read it until they like switched creative teams. So when I like was watching this episode, I was like, oh yeah, that reminds me of like that Greg Rucka storyline from a few years back.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about, Ashley. You're talking about the 2014 series, like you said, written by Greg Rucka and fucking Russell Dodderman. I think did the first 6
Yes.
issues before he jumped ship.
Yeah, and that's when I stopped reading it. But the first
Sounds
6
about right.
issues were really good.
Yeah, that was a spinoff from was it like All New X-Men, where Bendis brought the original 5 into the current X-Men. That's right. Yeah. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
see, I like spin-off stuff. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like the whole world of X-Men is just
Yeah,
a
it's pretty
lot.
dense. It is. Well, let me ask you this: did you learn anything new about your boy Corsair in this episode?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, I kind of already knew all about that guy.
You're like, it just solidified that he's a shitty father. That's all it did.
So handsome.
You say shitty. I say man about town.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Look, I
Professor
plan
X.
on abandoning. I
Professor
plan on
X. Oh, that's
abandoning
a
my
size.
family to go to outer space as soon as my daughter is born. It'll make her better. It'll make her better.
It's
No,
like
and if she doesn't get better, I mean, so Age of Apocalypse.
it's like the Johnny Cash boy named Sue theory of
Look, if
naming your
she
son
doesn't
Sue,
get
so he has to
better,
fight his
Yeah.
whole life.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go fuck a cat lady in outer space.
Oh,
Sounds like a plan.
Rufio would
Thank you,
not
Ashley.
approve. I think Rufio would be a little jealous.
What?
but-
Rufio would high five me. Are you kidding me? You're like, hell yeah.
True.
Meow, good job, Cesar. Meow.
But like, yeah, Hepzibah's hot.
That is funny. Hey, what about you, man? What are some of the more notable X-Men or characters that the show introduced you to?
I think I pretty much, from what I watched, and I was like this was probably my peak X-Men fandom. So I think I pretty much, outside of the morph, I guess I'm pretty much familiar with most of the characters that were on the show. I can't think of anyone that wasn't acknowledged in the comics I was reading, because I was reading at that time was, the Jim Lee stuff was coming out, but I had like the Claremont and Byrne stuff. I had a lot of X-Men material to read from. So a lot of those characters I had a familiarity with, even like, Apocalypse and Shadow King and characters like that. So I knew pretty much, and that's probably one of the reasons too I didn't really attach to it, because I didn't like, that wasn't my favorite like lineup, like the whole lineup, so, but yeah, I don't know if it introduced me to anybody specifically.
Outside of the main roster and like the principal cast, who are some of your more favorite B-list, C-list X-Men?
X-Men or just people in the X-Men world? Well, like I said, why I picked the episode Long Shot and Spiral I like a lot, mostly because of Art Adams and the design and just how bizarre that character is. As far as the X-Men Prime goes, I've always liked the original 5, like Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey. I like Rogue. I like a lot of the characters. Why I like the series so much, because there are so many characters I can roll down, like Mystique. They have such a great Rogues Gallery. White, the Hellfire Club, I thought was just everything. All the characters had a unique spin on them, and I was so entrenched in that world back then.
Yeah.
I just liked, I could go on forever, but as far as like the main X-Men, of course, Wolverine is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think he definitely he steals the show just for some of his quotables, man, and it's very like PG attempt at cursing throughout the series. It's hilarious. And then we go take same route C had. I got a top 3. I'll share as far as like notable characters that really resonated with me or introduced to me. Mariko, she had a 2-part episode. I think in season 2 or 3. It's Wolverine's wife or former wife that ends
Lady
up,
Deathstrike?
Lady Deathstrike. There you go.
Yeah,
that implants adamantium into her to have those wicked long adamantium claws or nails at that. I just remember that episode like, holy shit, like Wolverine's got a fucking crazy ass ex-wife, ex-girlfriend that is after him. And her character design is just like is pretty unique. It's kind of wild. It's hard to like make heads or tails of like, is that hair or is that a hat? Is that skin?
Hold
or
on.
Hit it.
Hold on. I gotta say something though.
Yeah.
Mariko is not Lady Deathstrike. Yuriko is.
That's right.
Oh,
Lady
my
Deathstrike.
bad. I said
Yuriko-
Gets killed.
You're
She
right.
gets killed.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I was about to
What-
say.
okay.
Let's not soil the bad name, the good name of fucking Mrs. X Logan here.
You're right. Yuriko Oyama. I am so sorry.
Yeah, her dad was a part of the Weapon 10
Weapon X.
program, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he fucking help Cap get his fucking super soldier shit?
Say Weapon 10?
Oh, yeah, Weapon X. Yeah,
Weapon
10.
X. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, she's right. It was the Yuriko part that fucked me up. Lady Deathstrike is one of them.
That was my bad.
And then I'll also say Bishop was another character that the show introduced me to. And,
Oh, that fucking Jerry curls.
that's
Priceless, bro.
It's like a Jerry Curl mullet.
Priceless.
It's awesome.
or
Oh,
is
it's
that,
wonderful.
or as I like to call him, Majin Black Man. With that fucking wicked M tattoo.
Dude.
Wolverine says a really fucking great one-liner against Bishop. I think Wolverine probably has a one-liner or a diss against everyone. But in the episode One Man's Worth that I watched, him and Bishop kind of get into an argument because Wolverine is fucking up their plan to fucking save Xavier, and Wolverine is, of course, extremely unhinged. He tells Bishop, "Ain't no neck having lumberjack gonna come talk to me that way." Yeah, which made me realize like Bishop has the biggest fucking head in this whole entire show. See, what were you gonna say about Bishop?
Lumberjack.
Oh, the bandana, man. I mean, I wanted a yellow bandana.
Come on, man.
Yeah, freaking, what is it? The what was it? XSE
Yes.
was the what he was a part of, like the future mutant cops.
Yeah, Xavier. I forgot what it's called. XSE Bishop. Now I'm kind of curious on the nerd shit.
It was crazy, all that shit, and I was like, God damn,
There you
Bishop's
go.
hair is fantastic.
Xavier Security Enforcers. That was the name of this
Yeah.
the dystopian police force. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Bishop,
dude.
Lady Deathstrike, and last but not least, Archangel. That Archangel episode, what was it? Season, I think it might be season 1. Crazy, where Angel becomes Archangel and joins Apocalypse's 5 Horsemen. Yeah, that shit blew my mind as a kid. It's like, how could they do that to Angel? Then I ended up reading the comic books and when Archangel, that story arc, and I was like, damn, even the comic books are fucked up. So those are my 3. I think even more fucked up. I think in the comic books, he really went through it there. What about familiarity with like some of the other X-Men animated shows? This wasn't the only one that came out. We mentioned a little bit about Pride of the X-Men, which was the first pilot. Yo, shout out to Rufio. You heard that.
Sorry.
No, all good. So we talked a little bit about Pride of the X-Men, which was the OG pilot episode and first kind of like attempt to make an animated series about the X-Men. We had this series, but then we also had shows like X-Men Evolution that was out that was aired between 2000 and 2003, and then of course the follow-up to that was Wolverine and the X-Men.
The fucking best.
Really? Okay.
The fucking best.
See, I don't.
Wolverine and the X-Men, so good.
Okay, so it does live up to the hype.
Hell yes, dude. But it's only good because the original 90s X-Men was good. It's basically a rehash of that.
With better graphics, I will say. I do like the animation in that series.
Well, yeah, that's how they tricked you, dude.
And you had Cyclops in a sweet fucking coat for no reason.
No, 100% for a reason. Like, all those designs were intended. Like, that fucking... man, god damn it.
Did you watch I know it's only one season. Did you watch all of the episodes in that season?
Yes.
Damn.
I own it. I got them on Blu-ray, dude.
God,
Dude.
Man,
Fancy.
my man is married and he's about to have a kid. Can you believe that? And this dude owns that shit on DVD. Impressive.
I said Blu-ray. I'm fucking bougie
my
as
bad.
hell.
My bad. Ain't no broke boy shit over here.
Look, I'm like Whitney Houston over here. I'm like, crack is for poor people. I do cocaine.
I remember this was around the time like I started. You just wasn't watching as much cartoons, but my dad and brothers loved Wolverine and the X-Men. I think my jam, besides the OG animated series, I really did like X-Men Evolution. I did. It took a minute. It took a while for X-Men Evolution to get like really good and the action to be a ramp up. I remember thinking like those first. I think the first season.
High school, right?
Yeah, the first season was so fucking slow and teen drama, and I just wanted action.
Yeah, they took all of what made X-Men cool and just flushed it down the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Horrible.
Look, it's got some gems in there. It's got some gems, especially towards the latest
every
season.
now and then I take a shit and some of the food I enjoyed, I can see it, but it doesn't mean I'm going to eat shit.
Well, you're missing out then. All right? Well, I'm sorry. All right?
Gross.
Ashley, Ashley, it sounds like you got my back on this. X-Men Evolution wasn't all that bad, was it?
I mean, I don't have like the greatest taste in things, but I would watch that every day after school before I went to work.
Look, getting the authority, getting people to say it's good because hashtag a lot of people like it doesn't make it good. There are logical reasons for why that show sucks, and it's all the writing.
Yo,
look,
I'm not saying it's better than the OG. I'm just saying.
Hold on.
I liked it.
Let's listen to the tape. Listen to the tape. My name is Bonner, and I like X-Men Evolution more than my family. See,
he's a Sentinel now. That's weird.
Hey,
yep, it's weird.
See, your phone was coming in and out, and you straight up did sound like a fucking tape. playing back.
That's perfect.
Yeah, good effect. Good effect. Ed, what about you, man? Any familiarity with these other X-Men shows?
In passing, I didn't watch 1 second of either of those shows. Like when I heard about Evolution, I think, and when I heard they were high school kids, I kind of lost interest right away.
Yeah.
I was like, eh.
You're like, I don't need the CW version of
Yeah, some of the like character designs were kind of interesting, and then the Wolverine show, at that point, I was like kind of out of my X-Men phase. So
Got it. You grew up.
yeah.
Became a man. Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know, up maybe sideways to weirder shit. But yeah.
Well, then let me ask you this, Ed. My next question was, who draws your favorite X-Men, comic specific wise?
I got to do 2 eras.
Hit it.
Okay. So I want to say 80s. I'm going to say John Byrne with Terry Austin inking.
Ooh.
Fantastic stuff. Terry Austin makes a difference.
You
with
just
John
gave
Byrne.
you just gave C an old man bone right there. You say John Byrne or Terry Austin around him?
That combo is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like John Byrne, but when him and Austin together, that's magic. And for 90s, like as much as I like Jim Lee, I gotta say Joe Mad, just because it was such a
Mad Joe, baby.
such a like at me at that time and what my tastes were. That kind of got me like, oh, okay. And he was, like I said, he kind of got out of comics as soon as he could.
And hopefully his boy Liquid is doing the inking.
Yeah. It's just, I thought they looked really cool. He had a big, like the Age of Apocalypse, all the redesigns, but his X-Men work,
it's strong, man.
I really love it. Just seeing like pages where X-Men playing softball game, and just his art, it makes it like, oh,
that's
my
X-Men
God. 300.
300.
Yeah, so it's just
X-Men 300 with the fold-out cover. I
Yep.
own that shit.
me too. It's
You
like
are a fucking dweeb. But
and
I love it.
the way he draws. Pretty much all the characters look really sharp, but I really love his Storm and Rogue. I think they're even Gambit looks cool.
Who was okay? Here's the thing. I can tell you, Scott Lobdell. I can't tell you shit about what the stories were about, but I can tell you all of them covers by memory.
Yeah.
Like he's drawn some of the most. He's drawn covers that I just have ingrained in my brain, but I cannot tell you what the fuck the story. I believe around that time, like I think X-Men would just kind of, I don't know. I don't think the stories were as strong as they could have been between Scott Lobdell and then Fabian, however you say his last name.
Yeah.
Vicenza.
It was more art at that. For that stuff, I was more getting it for there because.
What are you guys talking about? The Age of Apocalypse, Fatal Attractions. Goodness, the Phalanx Covenant is when Joe Madureira came in for the Generation Next comics. And then, come on, Bonner, this is your fucking homeboy because he was around for Onslaught.
Yeah, that was a big part. You're right. I might have to retract my statement. I know a little bit about this. I guess I didn't know that. I didn't think that Scott Lobdell and Fabian were writing at that point. There was other people,
dude. And also, this is around the time. This is kind of fucked up. Sabretooth was like feigning retardation.
Oh yeah,
because he was locked up. Yeah.
Because Wolverine popped the claw through his head.
Yes,
classic.
And like scrambled his brains, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, he's brain damaged," and it's kind of embarrassing that like Sabretooth is running around, scampering around the field, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm Sabretooth."
He's like Sloth from Goonies.
It was a ploy the whole time.
Fucking like he was faking the whole time, and he stabs the shit. I think he kills the fuck out of Psylocke. Yeah.
No, he doesn't kill her. He just like critically wounds her.
Didn't he? Do
my god,
Boom Boom too. What's her name?
Yeah, well, he lied to her. Yeah, because Boom Boom was Tabitha was fucking his
Jubilee
little.
Yep.
Yeah.
Suckers.
Look. Let's just call it what it is. First off, Jubilee is just third rate. Kitty Pryde. All right. Kitty Pryde was the OG.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yo,
all right.
Pride of the X-Men. I'm telling you, that's all. I mean, they literally took Pride of the X-Men and just replaced Kitty Pryde of Jubilee
with a fucking Y, baby.
Ashley, what about you? Who draws some of your favorite X-Men?
I think just from recent memory, I'm gonna go with Phil Noto.
Oh, interesting.
Just because he's so realistic, and it's really gorgeous. Because I think he's doing something with X-Men right now. And I have not read it, but I've bought both of the issues that are out so far.
Yeah, he's involved with like when Hickman relaunched it and had the Power of 10 and all that stuff. I think he did one of these spin-off series.
Yeah, just I see his artwork and I'm like, all right, I'll I don't know if I'm going to sit down and read this whole thing, but I'm at least going to look through it.
I don't blame you at all. There is a issue of All New X-Men number 38 that came out in 2012 where it's and this was like when Phil Noto was doing like these this variant cover run where all of the covers are supposed to look like old time magazine covers and old photos. That I can't recommend. If you haven't seen that, actually, I think you'd like it a lot. Especially just that entire variant cover run was cool.
Oh, nice.
See, I know your choices are going to have me nerding out, so I want to go to you and hear who are some of the names of the artists who draw your favorite X-Men, or the names of your favorite X-Men artists.
Look, I mentioned earlier Dave Cockrum, man. Like, he's
Classic.
probably not known for being like a bad boy or fucking, like, oh, Dave Cockrum, but like, man, his style is so cool, and it's almost kind of like soft. Like, he's got these really thin lines. They're not like they're not really hard or like I don't know how to explain it. Like, if you look at Dave Cockrum's artwork and the way he draws like Kitty Pryde's hair, it's funny. Like, you're like, damn, it's like almost looks like fettuccine. Like, it's he's really, I don't know what to say. Like,
Steve's hungry as shit right now. That's what's up.
I'm starving,
for
man. But man, that guy's artwork is fucking fantastic. And Ed nailed that shit with fucking Joe Madureira, man. I had such a fucking boner for Joe Madureira's artwork. And yes, I think he draws my favorite Storm.
Oh yeah. Yep.
100%. And I'm gonna lay one on you. Let's see if I can remember the artist's name. Oh, they did it was X-Men Haunted was the story arc, and it was Bram Revell. Botter, since I know every time I drop a name like that, you're usually on the computer like, looking it up.
I am.
Just type in X-Men Haunted, Bram Revell. That fucking dude. Holy shit. That guy is fucking great.
Yo, did he do some like Fleer Ultra cards?
I couldn't tell you.
I see something that I pulled up. Marvel Fleer X-Men 1995 Haunted Mansion set of 5. Maybe that might not be.
No.
I'm like,
no, that's not it. Yeah.
Oh, yo, no, this is fucking tight. 2013.
Yeah.
Where'd you find this?
This was a rando sort of like I was in the comic shop and I saw it on the cover and I was like, hey, I like this art, and I just picked it up and I'm like, whoa, this guy needs to keep drawing X-Men. And it's cool because in that story arc, he gets to play around with that universe because there's somebody who can kind of control what you see, and he gets to draw a lot of different X-Men characters.
You know,
like in the world, not just X-Men, like a bunch of people.
Ed, and see, you guys have already named my first one that was on my list. Mad Joe is super high. I was like, well, we've already spent like fucking almost 2 hours talking about Jim Lee, so I'm not gonna have him on this list. But Mad Joe is up there. I think he's got like the perfect balance of like classic kind of traditional like American superhero comic look combined with like that anime manga flair,
that like dynamics.
Yeah. I remember seeing it and just like being blown away that the X-Men could look like this. Andy Kubert all day. I mean, you know, his stuff on Age of Apocalypse, his stuff on Executioner's Song. The list goes on. Andy Kubert, to me, is one of the best artists to touch the X-Men. And then my notable artist here is Bingus, or his real name, Nato Kurashima. He's the character artist at Capcom who created the art for X-Men versus Street Fighter,
those
Marvel
are nice.
Superheroes, Marvel's Capcom 2, all those X-Men Capcom video games. Bingus is the artist responsible for I think 90% of those images that you see. I think I've already shared the story a few times where his inspiration and direction was to try to like mimic or use Jim Lee's design and style, but I think he made his own. Like, it's a very unique style to me. Especially like when the artwork shows up. I love Marvel's Capcom 2 because of the loading screens. Like, you get the sweet like little print that shows
art.
up. Yeah, that, I mean, it looks great, man.
Did Capcom's art team at that time? That's
straight heat, man. Yeah. Straight heat. So yeah, Bingus draws some of my favorite X-Men. And if I could have gotten that in a comic book, that would have been awesome. All right, y'all. Well, look, I think we've done a pretty good job putting a spotlight on this X-Men animated series. How about we close out the show with any last-minute thoughts on the series, anything that you want to share? But most importantly, how about we give the listeners some recommendations for other must-watch episodes or essential X-Men reading? I'm going to go to you, man. What do you got to say?
I guess closing thoughts is it was a good show. It's a really good show. And you don't need me to tell you that. If you've seen it, then you know it. If you haven't, then watch it and you'll come to that same conclusion.
Great.
As far as like recommendations, I would say that fucking Shadow King episode slaps. It's still good. You get to see a young Storm and an adult Storm kind of deal with her claustrophobia, which was a fear that I did not know Storm had when I watched the show, until I watched the show, that she's claustrophobic. So one of her weaknesses. And as far as X-Men stuff to get into, I'm going to say, because we talked about Joe Mad, I would say check out the Phalanx Covenant. Those miniseries are pretty freaking gnarly. They kind of came at the tail end of the Fatal Attractions. So I'd say the Fatal Attractions run in general. Just read that shit. You get to see Wolverine be like, my claws aren't metal anymore. And it was the dramatic reveal that Wolverine naturally makes those bone claws. They had not established that in continuity previously. So it's a good one. It's a good little reveal, because everyone in the Danger Room is kind of shocked, because they all thought, oh, he just has these metal knives that were implanted in there. And then when Magneto removes the metal and he pops him for the first time, and it's bone and blood, and Logan's like, ah, and everybody's like, my God, that's disgusting. You fucking piece of shit. Don't put gross. Do that in the bathroom. Nobody wants to see that.
We've let this animal into our team this whole time.
Has he had his shots?
And here's the thing. I'm looking at Phalanx Covenant covers, and I'll say, I think I got to admit, I don't think I've read all of these. And it looks pretty manageable. Oh, wow. It's not like a massive, X-Men crossovers at this time was across every 5 other titles, but this one looks pretty accessible. And you've got some sick covers by both Mad Joe and my boy Andy Kubert.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Ashley, what about you? I want to hear what's your last kind of parting words, and if you got any recommendations.
So the new X-Men, is it Gary Dugan or Jerry Dugan that took over for Hickman? It hasn't been bad. I'm behind on it, but I'm still getting it.
Oh, you're talking about the main X-Men title that they relaunched last year. Okay.
Yeah, it's drawn really, really well. And I don't mind what's going on with the story. I feel like now that they're on their own island, I can kind of focus on, you know what I mean? It just feels easier to focus on.
I'll say that is one thing I will, definitely give Hickman and his team a lot of credit. That Power of X relaunch was a great jumping on point, for new readers like yourself that, didn't necessarily need to be bogged down by years of continuity.
Yeah. So, I'm enjoying that. Also, I don't even know if this made it on the air when we first started, but I can't stop thinking about how Wolverine is Canadian and he's got that free healthcare, but he's got the healing abilities. They should have given that to somebody else.
That is fucking hilarious.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's been in the back of my mind this whole episode.
You can tell he don't got that freedom of speech like we got down here, though, because he's saying shit like, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash.
That's true. Whole new insight into Wolverine.
USA. Also, wait. Yeah, think about this. How come he has a smoker's voice if he has a healing factor? Don't think too much about it.
It might hurt my brain.
Because you're going to be like, wait a minute. He should sound like this. Hey, guys, it's me. I'm Wolverine. I never smoked because I got a fucking healing factor. Instead, he's like, hey, Bob. He's been yelling at a concert for 5 hours straight.
Ed, what about you, man? Closing thoughts, recommendations, what you got?
What I really just re-watching the show is just how fast the show moves. Like watching when I watched the Mojo Vision first, it was like, 20, I mean, that seemed like 5 minutes. It was like, and even watching the first two, I mean, right off the bat, like they're into it. There's a Sentinel after the credits, there's a Sentinel already, breaking, tearing shit up.
Dude, yes. All every episode I watched, it was like within the first 5 minutes, they're getting right to the action.
They do not.
Some shit's blowing up, someone's dying. Someone's being called a mutie or something.
You don't waste any time. So as far as just like, and I guess I'm just watching too many A24 movies, where this is like, holy shit, this is really fast. And like I said, it's an easy watch. And what's great too is that intro, as much as we love that theme song, it has a great intro introducing all the characters and kind of giving you kind of what they do, giving you their powers, showing the enemy. So even if you have no idea who the X-Men is, you can kind of get like this, a minute long, like, oh, okay, she does weather stuff. This guy's in a weird, crazy wheelchair, And
when he touches his tempo, fucking fireworks shoot at his head. But how cool is it that every single one of those characters got a sweet title card, like
they
a
got their own
unique
logo.
title card?
Yeah,
it's
cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's a good. It's like I said, it's a good show because it kind of distills a lot of all that story, like what you were saying, Ashley. Just so much history, so many characters. It's a good kind of Reader's Digest version to get through, a simplified version, and just it's a good jumping on point if you're interested in X-Men. It's a good place to start, and I'm hoping this new 97 series kind of follows up with that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm looking forward to this this new series Disney Plus made the announcement last year towards the tail end that they were reviving the animated series. I found out that it's coming out next year. It's got a lot of the head writers and and producers of the OG series as consultants, so they're involved. And it's going to pick up right after right where the series left off, where Professor X is like, fuck you guys, I'm leaving Earth with my alien hottie, and leaves Magneto to run the school. Apparently, X-Men 97 is going to continue on straight from there, and a lot of the OG voice actors are coming back. Looking forward to it. Good stuff. Rewatching a lot of these episodes was kind of like, and this is going to sound stupid, but it felt like riding a bike again, man. If you've watched these episodes, like, it's kind of cool to like have everything kind of come right back to you. And then you end up wanting to revisit like a bunch of episodes that, you've seen before. But the fun part is, like kind of going to the older, the later half of this series, like seasons 4 and 5, and finding out that, oh, damn, they did episodes with fucking the Starjammers, and X Factor shows up. Oh, there's an episode with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So finding out about some of the later half of the series, and where they went with that and some of the different story arcs, was a lot of fun. Just easy viewing. And Ashley, to your point, I guess it didn't dawn on me how dramatic this show was, man. Like it's some serious stuff that they're talking about, and the voice acting too is so stellar. I gotta give props to that crew. That was apparently something that they made note of from Pride of the X-Men, was they wanted to have all new voice actors.
They fired everybody.
Yeah, said, fuck yeah. We're bringing on a whole bunch of new voice actors that like really got the assignment, right? It's like, hey, our goal is to make an adult kind of adult-friendly cartoon with the X-Men and bring a lot of those tropes
they used like
over.
Toronto like stage actors and things like that to fill up that crew.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere where the Storm actress, we joke about how over the top she is, but that was like a very conscious decision for her. Was she wanted Storm to be kind of like a Shakespearean character, and I think she killed it. So, great cartoon. And if you are an X-Men fanatic like we are, I think it scratches that itch, man. It's just really cool to see some of the adaptations from these, popular comic book story arcs, and even the smaller ones, just executed really well. A lot of love was
better
put
than
into the
any
show.
of the movies. Phoenix, the Phoenix Saga, Days of Futures Past. Watch the cartoon.
Yeah, and Ed, I'll say I forgot how much all these episodes kind of like lean or continue on from one another. Like every episode was like previously on X-Men. It's like, God damn, all this happened 2 episodes ago. Like, and a lot of them aren't really standalone. So I mean, granted, you can watch them standalone, but it's really fun when you start watching like a whole series and you see like certain things build up and characters being introduced. So.
The same thing with the Spider-Man when we watched it. It was like so many multi-part episodes.
Well, I'll say I think X-Men just did it from the jump, right? Like
The first, yeah, it's 2 parts.
yeah, it's like all right, here's the first 2-part. I think all of season 3 of X-Men is the Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga. So long form storytelling. So, anyways, I'll say for anyone who is a fan of like behind the scenes stuff and learning how shit is made, the head writers Eric and Julia Lewald actually released a book titled X-Men: The Art and Making of the Animated Series. They released it back in 2020. There's a lot of like firsthand accounts and interviews about what it took to make the series. There's like unreleased concept sketches, storyboards, character models, like all that stuff jam packed in this really nice hardcover book. You can find it on Amazon super easy. And then I'll also recommend X-Men Pride of the X-Men, that OG pilot episode that came out in '89 that preceded this series by 3 years. You can find that full episode on Daily Motion and YouTube, and pretty good quality at that. So if you're a fan of the old Konami X-Men game, this is where they got that style and design. And a fun fact, it was produced by Toei Animation, who produced Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. So that's why the damn animation is so crisp. Anyways, I think we are good to wrap up this episode. Technical difficulties aside in the beginning, it turned out to be a damn good one. So
and a fun drinking game. Count how many times we use words like excellent, exposure, exposition, anything like that, and you will die of alcohol poisoning.
Absolutely. There you have it, Shortbox Nation. That's our episode for today. Thank you for being a Patreon subscriber. Like I said, we appreciate your support. And thank you for tuning in and letting us talk about the X-Men. We haven't decided what our next cartoon or installment will be, so we'll probably be looking to you for a little help with that. Stay tuned to the Patreon page, and I'll get a poll posted for some choices in the coming weeks. In the meantime, let us know what your favorite episodes of the X-Men are. I'd love to hear what impact the show had on you as a kid or as a comic fan. We always welcome your emails. Write us something short and sweet and send it to our inbox at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. In the meantime, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. But most importantly, take care of yourselves. Have a great day. And please continue to make mine and yours Shortbox. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.